It is now with much pleasure and extreme gratitude that I'm going to hand the meeting over to Chris, who's come along to share his experience, strength, and hope. Chris, it's over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. My name is Chris R. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. I'm from Ingram, Texas, which is about 60 miles northwest of San Antonio. Some of y'all might have heard that we had some big floods in the hill country. It was right out my front door. I'm right on the river, and things are starting to get back a little bit to normal. But if you hear anything that sounds like big trucks running by, they are. They're clearing all that wreckage off the river, and yeah. Grateful I was sober through all that. It was never saw anything like it. We dodged it from about 20 feet, so we're lucky. And thanks so much for asking me to come. I'm watching that clock closer than you smokers. So I got that watching close. I had one little prevailing thought when we were talking this last week about a topic. If you look on the bottom of page 14, I'm just going to give it to you now so that while I'm rambling, you can look it up and see it. Bottom of page 14, one of my favorites. For if an alcoholic fails to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. If he didn't work, he would surely drink again. If he drank, he would surely die. Then faith would be dead indeed. With us, it is just like that. I love Bill Wilson, but he got really, really down to dirty right at the very beginning, telling you exactly how to do it. I'm really disappointed that I didn't even own a copy of this big book for the first 7 years I was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's part of what I'm talking about. I got to mention, as I always do when I share, I'm going to share my experience. My experience may be completely different than your experience. So I'm not telling you how to do it. I might be telling you how to do it, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You could just stay miserable if you want. I don't care. But Kerrville, like I said, is just idyllic. My dad drug us from West Texas out here when I was about 11 years old, and grew up here in the beautiful hills of Texas, and it's hot down here. Y'all know I had a jacket on earlier and I was sweating so fuck. It's hotter than hell here in Texas already. So I apologize for not wearing a jacket to this bunch, but old guys, they got to be comfortable. So. I got an identical twin brother that's an alcoholic too. I've got two sisters that didn't catch the bullets. Guys, alcoholism and drug addiction is genetic. There's a genetic predisposition. There's still people out there that want to argue it. It's not a disease. It absolutely is a disease. Tell it to the American Medical Association. I don't know. It just freaks me out. Everybody wants to point a finger at why they're alcoholics and addicts. Guys, we came from a beautiful family. You listen to some of the speakers, and bless their little hearts, they were raised by a pack of wolves, out in the alley. And I wasn't, mom was a professional artist. Dad was a craftsman, a bookbinder by profession, and just front row of the Baptist church every time the door was opened up. And there wasn't any goofy stuff in our family. Dad was an alcoholic, nice, sweet, kind man. But he drank too goddamn much. And you can look at both sides of my family tree and give it a good kick. Little alcoholics will drop out like pecans on a windy day. I mean, they're everywhere. So genetics, you might want to look. It can skip genes, it could genetics, generations, but it's usually up there. So hard drinkers can stop on a dime, guys. All they got to do is make up their mind, I'm going to quit, and they can quit. They don't need to work steps. They don't need to have a spiritual experience. And AA is full of them. Lots of people out there that never had to do. I'm not, bless them. They're welcome. Just pay attention who you're listening to. Hopefully you got a real alcoholic sponsor here. You're going to be in trouble. But I laid down here on the, January 1971, the year and the month that Bill Wilson, our co-founder, passed away. I took my first drink. I drank a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine right down there on the river. The tree, when I went back into Kerrville, I kept looking off to the right, and the tree that I drank that wine under is still there. All the trees around it was gone, but that my first drink tree was right there. And golly, I don't know if they have Boone's Farm in the UK, but you ought to go find some. Next relapse, go get you some of that. This is nasty. God, horrible. And in high school I was, and it was okay. But I mean, I got to tell you, it fixed what was wrong with me. I was a little skinny one-eyed guy, guys, nervous as I could be. Just, you know, you can call it adolescent angst if you want. I call it untreated alcoholism. And I drank that bottle of Boone's Farm and was okay. And guy, when alcohol worked for me for a long time, and held it together pretty good. It's progressive, folks, and it progresses different speeds in different people. Some of you folks, one of the worst alcoholics I ever sponsored, worked with was a 19-year-old young man. And 19-year-olds, he drank twice, blacked out both times, and got arrested. I mean, he was an in-stage alcoholic at 19. I sponsored a sea of old guys that didn't start having trouble until they were in their 60s, 50s, 60s, and the wheels started coming off. Guys, it's just different for everybody. But anyway, but one thing that ties us together is the symptoms. And I don't care if you're 19 or 90, we've all got the same exact symptoms. And Bill Wilson talks about it on 17. We got a common problem and a common solution. And that's what ties us all together. I love getting on Zooms, guys. There'll be people out there that'll talk crap about them, but I got to tell you, I get to see some of my old friends on here and make some new ones. I'm sure there's nothing like it, and I don't have to. I mean, I actually put pants on today, so what the heck, you know? I had through high school doing okay, and I got a job. I was in the food business real quick, and I was pretty good at it, guys. I started traveling around a little bit. My brother and I moved to Houston, Texas, got a little rat-infested apartment. And we were young and too young to buy booze in Texas, but the next-door neighbors could. So, you know, we stayed okay. And guys, I'm doing pretty well. I'm coming up the ladder of my career. And the problem was I've also, you know, getting more irritable, restless, and discontent as time goes on. And I started doing a bunch of geographics. I don't know if any of y'all ever moved thinking it was going to be better in the next place. You'd think I'd have learned. I've moved so many times, it's not even funny. And I still drive a pickup truck because you never know when you might need to move again. And golly, I moved to Austin, Texas for 2 years, and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I moved to Vernon, Texas, then back to Houston. And guys, just this nonstop. Guess who showed up every time? Got the same problems, got the same, and still I steady want to blame everybody around me. One of those geographics back to Houston, I married this nice lady and moved up to North Texas to be closer to my twin brother. He was up there taking care of my dad and helping with his bookbindery. And I don't know, got a job at a country club, bought a little house, and you know, married. And I mean, everything on the outside looked great. And the depression's killing me. I am just not a happy camper. That's all there is to it. And y'all read the bedevilments on page 52. All that internal stuff, that's the stuff that gets us. And it's like, you know, I wish I'd known that that's what it was. I'm starting to see doctors, and I've got a psychiatrist in Dallas, and, you know, they're, bless their little hearts. You know, I would never knock doctors or therapists, and they're all trying to point a finger at why I'm drinking and why I'm not a happy camper. And it's, brings out that not much of it was true. I'm just miserable. I came home one night after I'd been drinking with a chef, and I'd done some this stuff called cocaine, and I don't think they've got that in the UK, but we dang sure did in Texas. I got to tell you, listen, guys, back in the early 80s, everybody in the United States was doing cocaine. Your grandmother was doing cocaine. It's just all, I'm just stop. And the ones that say they weren't are not being truthful. Everybody. And I ended up, I did a little bumpy poo with a chef there, and I ended up, I going home. I don't remember what the fight was about, but I had a little pushing match with her. And I come from a family, we don't do pushing matches. I was mortified. She asked me to leave, and I did. Came back a few hours later, sobered up a little bit. She let me back in the house, and we had the talk, which meant, you know, if you want to stay married to me, you're going to have to stop drinking. And I looked her straight in the face about this far from her little nose and said, I'll never touch another drop. And I meant it with every fiber in my body. Everybody's always making jokes about that. Oh, if an alcoholic's mouth moving, he's lying. One, it's not true. It's disrespectful. Some of the finest people I've ever known, the most honest people I've ever, come on, guys. There's no more dishonest people in AA than there are in the Elks Lodge. Just You can disagree if you want. There's some fine folk out there. I meant it. I wasn't going to drink anymore. I was tired of it anyway. And I went to my AA meeting the next day, and they were nice, and everybody went around and told their story. And I came home a week and a half later, and Chef asked me to stay after and go over some function sheets for the next day. And we drank a beer, and I went home smiling because I didn't get drunk. And my deal with her wasn't that I wasn't going to come home drunk. My deal was that I wasn't going to touch another drop. And she packed her stuff and left. And she was smart, because I had 7 more years sitting in the rooms of AA, not staying sober. Guys, I've been AA for 7 years. I never picked up a 30-day chip. Too bad they don't give a 2-week chip out, because I'd have had a drawer full of them babies. I can stay sober for 2 weeks like that. About 2 weeks out, I start that irritable, restless, discontent stuff starts to come back. Again, I go back to the bedevilments on 52, the fear, the low self-esteem, the feeling of uselessness, that depression starts to kick my butt. They were the nicest people in the world, folks. I got to tell you, and I'm not knocking any one of those people. Back in the day, in the area that I was, it didn't seem like anybody was talking about the steps. We had the steps and the traditions on the wall, but nobody was talking about it in meetings. All we were talking, every meeting was the same. Okay, well, who's the newcomer? Who's got a problem? And we talk about your damn problem for an hour, which is really great. The book says we set aside 1 night a week for the newcomer to bring their problems. I think that's a great idea, but just not every meeting. Please. Because listening to you talk about your cat is not going to help me stay sober. Learning how to have a spiritual experience is going to help me stay sober. And anyway, 1987, guys, I stopped after work, picked up my bunch of return checks in the mail, and I bankrupted another checking account. And I'm just deadgummit. I've got a psychiatrist. I'm on 7 pills a day, all from doctor prescribed illnesses, and none of which I had. And guys, I've tried AA. It doesn't work. I wish I had a nickel for every person that I ever watched come into the rooms. I've worked in the treatment biz. I do clerical work for a hospital forever, and listen to the number of people that I hear say, I've tried AA. It doesn't work. And you talk to them for a few minutes and find out they did exactly what I did for 7 years. All they did was go to a bunch of goddamn meetings. They didn't participate. No, they didn't share. They didn't. I'm going to say this real quick. One of the things that the book talks about 27 places in the big book, last count, I could be off, they use the word approach. The alcoholic, the recovered alcoholic is supposed to approach the newcomer. I'm watching you guys do it on this Zoom as I'm getting ready to talk. Follow? You guys are loving on these little new guys coming in, and that's what we were supposed to do. Guys, I'm not in an area where they were doing that. Okay. I mean, the last time I picked up a desire chip, nobody applauded. They'd see me pick up so many chips. They used to ask me to bring some of them back. I've talked about it. Some of you have heard me talk about it. There's this club out there up in North Texas, and it was a big old metal building, and I'd gone to the meeting, and again, it's the same stuff. Let's tell Chris how we got here, and everybody goes around and tells their scary stories, and I can't relate, guys, because I'm a drunk from hell, y'all, but I've never missed a day's worth of work. So I mean, I'm not doing some of the crazy stuff y'all are doing, and I can't relate. I call myself an alcoholic. Probably don't believe it. Meeting's over, walk out on the front porch, everybody's smoking, talking about where they're going to go to dinner. And I'm standing there by myself. Everybody starts to leave. Pretty soon it's just me in the parking lot. I walk out to my pickup truck. I know what I'm going to do. Old guy comes out, turns the lights off in the parking lot. It's dark again. And I'm sitting there by myself. In my head, the obsession's on me like stink. And I'm going to go drink. Stop and buy me a 12-pack of beer and go home. Guys, Could I have asked the questions? Yes. Could I have offered to go to dinner with those people? Yes. Guys, I'm scared to death. I don't know what's appropriate. Is somebody going to teach me what this stuff is about? No. I don't think not any one of them were trying to hurt me. They're just in an area where it's just, well, when the newcomer's ready, he'll tell you. That's not true. That's not what this is. Just read the dadgum big book. It'll tell you exactly what to do. I got up from the kitchen table and fed the ferrets and straightened up a little bit and went to the medicine cabinet and took a couple of bottles of pills out and tried to commit suicide. I believe God intervened, and I got up and made myself sick. Second thoughts, go back to AA, I kept hearing. And I don't want to go back to AA. I've tried it. It's not, what's going to be different this time? The next day I was still alive, and I went to work, and afterwards I was running late because I had to fix a piece of equipment that was broken and never had before. But all of a sudden that day, and it was too late for me to go to the meetings I'd been going to. So I went to a different one. Somebody had showed me, said it was a big book meeting. And I went into this meeting and parked in the back and didn't want anybody to know I wasn't going back to AA. I mean, all you had to do was look at my pickup truck and know I was an alcoholic. It was a crying shame. And walked in, and some of y'all have heard me talk before. I started to walk back out. I got real self-conscious. The chairperson made a big deal about me coming back. Chris, come in. He'd seen me up in North Texas, and I knew who he was, but I didn't, I said, but I'll come back. I'm detoxing. I'll come back Monday. And I took a step back, and this little girl had snuck up on my blind side and got me in the belt loop and said, "Sit down, cowboy. You're not going anywhere." I'll never forget. I said, one, I'm not a cowboy. And two, okay. She sat me down, got me a cup of coffee. Guys, her sponsor was across the way and couldn't get to me. She saw I was leaving, and she pointed to this little girl that was about, a few months sober, and she said, "Get him." Well, I'm so grateful. What happens if the little girl had said, "No, I can't do it. I'm not sober long enough"? That stuff's killing more alcoholics out there than anything we can do. Bill Wilson's, come on, guys. He's barely sober, and he's out there working with other alcoholics. That's why he stayed sober. Got Dr. Bob busy. It's just, read the history of what they used to do in the olden days when our success rates were through the ceiling, and you'll know why we're doing so differently today. It's just like, if we could get back and start doing what they were doing. Anyway, I sat in the meeting, and they went around the room that night, and they shared hope with me, buddy. I got to tell you, nobody told me any war. I knew what was coming. They're going to go around and tell me war stories and talk about eating out of dumpsters and shit. And I just thought, okay, all right, rock. And they didn't. Guys, I can see it on some of your faces. Guys, our stories are important. Friday night, tell your story. But if you're telling your story trying to scare somebody into recovery, you are wasting your time. No alcoholic ever believes he's going to do what you did. Book says we're supposed to pull that newcomer with a vision. That's what I'm going to do. Try. They went around and talked about getting little lady bought a new car, and she was holding up her car keys, and I'd just been turned down for a car loan. The guy next to her started a little landscape business. Lady at the end of the table had gone back to art school, and she was a year or so sober, and she's older than I was, and went back and got her degree, for heaven's sakes. Guy next to me met a little girl, and they'd had some little AA babies, and he's all excited about his little family, and I'm living alone with two stinky ferrets. I hate my life. And these people are showing me what life can be like in sobriety. We paint this picture in some areas. It's just, every day's a struggle sometimes. It's not. Life's a bear, but it got nothing to do with my alcoholism. I recovered. These old guys got hold of me real quick, and they sat down with me afterwards. They asked me to stay, and the old cowboy guys, and they had big books, and they said, "Chris, let's try to help you figure out why you can't stay sober." And I'm indignant. Did I mention that I have a psychiatrist? I have professionals trying to help me stay sober. And these old cowboys opened the big book. And for the first time, they showed me up in the doctor's opinion, the phenomenon of craving, this physical difference than we are from other people. They talked about the mental obsession. We didn't start on the title page and start reading, guys. The clock's ticking. I've picked up my last drink. And when that window of opportunity closes, I'm going to pick up alcohol and I'm going to drink. And I didn't choose to do it. I have lost the power of choice in drink. But the insanity returns, I get that mental blank spot, and I end up drinking again. That's why we die, folks. And they explained it. They showed me in the book what it was to be an alcoholic. They said, come back in the morning. We'll show you how to make some coffee. I said, you work those steps quick with us. We'll get you a sponsor. And I guarantee you can recover and you'll never drink again. Now, listen, I didn't even believe that to the man in the moon. But I drove home that night with tears in my eyes because I finally knew what was wrong with me. I guess I'm an alcoholic. Identified with the symptoms. I've got a little quick guide. If any of you guys ever email me, I can put it in the chat. A little quick first step, because that's where we usually lose them. We go too slow. First step is 60 pages. If you're reading it, a few pages every week, we ain't going to get it done. That obsession, you go, well, I don't know. I guess he just didn't want it. He wanted it. That's like me with a pill that can fix you, but, well, I'm going to give you a little piece of it now, and I'll give you another piece next week. Just no. Book talks about quick, guys. Nobody in the early days took longer than a few days to work the steps. Fact. And we got people killing people out there, letting them take years to do it. It's just ridiculous. So I just got taken off that person's Christmas card list. I came back the next day and they showed me how to make a pot of coffee. And after the 10 o'clock meeting that morning, we went in the back and did a little third step prayer with a couple of guys, and they bought me lunch afterwards. And then we came back and they gave me a little notebook. They told me to go on. We got the 6 o'clock meeting. I want you to get out there and start working on this 4th step. And they showed me how to do it. A couple of weeks later, I've got a completed 4th step, guys. I'm ready to do a 5th step when my sponsor gets back in town. And they're teaching me the disciplines of 10, 11, and they're getting me so busy in service work, it's not even funny. And some of y'all have heard me talk. It just, they got me on the cleanup committee. Yeah. I thought I was going to be an executive with an office, the cleanup. It turns out there was no committee. It was just me. I was the janitor at that group, Okay. But these guys knew that if they didn't find me a job in AA, I wasn't going to stay. I watched so many people come in, sit, mark off a calendar. Well, I went to another meeting. But you didn't do anything when you were in that meeting. You didn't make coffee. You didn't clean up. You didn't just be of service. We just read it on 14 and 15. That's how we grow spiritually. Work and self-sacrifice for others. Sometimes that phone rings, guys, even today, guys. November 13th, 1987 is my sober date. If I stick with it a couple more months, I'll have 38 years. But even still, sometimes I'm at night, I'm fixing to go to bed, and my stupid phone rings, and it's a little crazy guy I sponsor, and I go, God, I start cussing. God, ooh, ugh. Then I think, hey, how you doing? I'm just like, everything's going to be okay. I don't want to talk to that kid at 9 o'clock at night. It's past my bedtime. But I love my sobriety. And somebody picked up the phone at 9 o'clock when I was trying to get well. I'm going to keep doing the same thing. It says work and self-sacrifice. It means I'm going to have to go out of my way sometimes. Okay. It seems to be working, folks. I've had a pretty fine life. I was there at that group for 5 years and moved to the hill country where I met Mark Houston. And Mark passed away a long time ago, but he was great. He was my sponsor for like 17 years and just a wonderful guy. And he's one of the ones that got out there and started telling people and talking to them about working the steps quickly. There's so areas where just nobody was working the steps. It was just all about the meetings. And we started helping him with that. And I started getting to speak, I guess in the late 80s. And I went to my first conference to do a little talk, and good heavens, it's been crazy ever since. I've had a chance to travel all over the world and been able to have a proper English breakfast on many occasions. Thank God. And it's just I know some of you on this Zoom from places that I've gotten a chance to talk. I mean, God's blessed me. I got to say this real quick and let you guys go, turn it over to the folks. This is not something that just works when things are were really good in your life. You know, I got married to a girl in the program finally, and we got a great life, and we both love AA. That was on my top 10. When I'm looking for a new wife, she's going to be in the program because I love AA, and that constant tension seems to be the jealousy about the fellowship. Anyway, for me, it worked. And so we're here, and I don't know, guys, a couple of years ago, I had a bad case of vertigo in South Carolina, and supposed to be doing a talk, and I got up Saturday morning and fell on the floor, didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. And they sat with me for a couple of days in the emergency room, and was able to get back to an airport and get back home. And it was tough, guys. And I had people checking on me and people in AA just, offering solutions and help and support. July 4th, we were supposed to do a big fundraiser for our AA club, recovery club up in Ingram. And we had to cancel it, of course, because of the flood decimated the hill country. Never saw anything like it. And I'm sitting in my AA group last week and the week before and looking at these little newcomers. They're over there in the corner and they got a little sign-up sheet. They're fixing to all go volunteer at one of the food banks locally to help the little folks that got flooded out of their houses. These are little guys that were so selfish. Y'all follow? They were like little ingrown hairs. They weren't going to help anybody but themselves. I can't even help myself. How can I help you? Oh, shoot yourself. Stop. Quit. Self-pity kills more alcoholics than anything else out there. And I'm watching these little guys all sitting, all getting excited about go working at the food bank. It's like, really? That's nothing but God, folks. I'll say it and close. My mom, we used to take her to eat in meetings. Some of y'all have heard me talk about it. She'd leave, and on more than one occasion, I'd be taking her home, and I'd glance over. She'd be, daubing her little eyes with a little handkerchief. And I said, Mom, are you okay? She said, yeah. It's every time. She said, every time I go to them speaker meetings, every time I go to see you guys at that club, I wish we could find that kind of love in our churches. Yeah, me too. You'll be hard pressed to find it. You get in a healthy group where everybody's working the steps. I got to tell you what, you've never seen anything like it. Everybody bending over backwards trying to help, going to pick people up that didn't have rides and just bending over backwards to help that little newcomer. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So I'll mention that. Guys, again, I've got a Dropbox big, just full of recovery stuff. If any of you guys ever need step stuff, don't say, send me everything you've got. I don't have the knowledge how to send that much information. But if you happen to have, a question about something, I can dig in there and get it to you, and I'll be more than glad to send it to you. But I'll put that old email in that chat if it will allow me to do that. And I sure do appreciate you guys asking me. And dadgummit, I hope I get to see some of y'all on another Zoom soon. Thanks so much.